Daily Blast Live is a nationally syndicated daytime talk show featuring a mix of headline, debatable topics, celebrity interviews, and inspiring stories. It's real, honest, relevant, and entertaining. To watch, go to dailyblastlive.com/listings to check your local TV listings, or you can stream the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and the Daily Blast Live app. In fact, we're going to play an interview that they did with me, Dan Bolen, and it was done on April 18th. But you can go to the Daily Blast Live on YouTube and put in my name, Dan Bolen, and it will show up. You're going to see the audio here in just a moment, and I hope you enjoy it. To be here. Thank you so much.
I just, full disclosure, want to say I read this book and it has changed my life. So yes, your story is curated towards an LGBTQ experience, but this book will help anybody live their authentic life. So that's kind of a masterpiece if it can do that. Here's the book right here. Dan, in your book, The Courage to Be Courageous, you talk about when you realized you were, quote, and it's your quote, different. Can you talk to me about that? And also, tell me about why you're standing on the Capitol in the book and saying, "In God we trust." I want to know about that.
Okay, thank you. I knew I was different at 7 years old. It started when I would wrestle with the neighborhood kids that were my age, and I felt affection for them. It's like a boy and a girl, at 7 years old. They may have affection for each other, but I wasn't having affection for a boy or boys. So I knew that this was not right. I was in the 50s and 60s. Gay was certainly not talked about. It was a shameful thing. And because of that, I started developing my first case of shame because I knew I was different. And as time went on, I began to realize how much different I was, and the shame began to even escalate from there.
Wow.
The reason I'm standing on that is actually money. Okay, because my whole life was spent making money, and I used that as a work addiction. At my worst, I was working 90 hours a week, not only running my own search firm, but also traveling the world, giving other seminars. So that's where it stands in money. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Well, in your book, you say you were hidden, voiceless, and fearful for 7 decades. What kept you from being your authentic self for all those years?
Good question. I appreciate that. I was voiceless to myself. I was hiding from myself. I was fearful of myself. I was fearful of coming out. And I knew that in order for me to be able to be my authentic self, I had to come out as my true self. I used so many different types of things to hide who I was, primarily religious addiction and also workaholism or work addiction. And what I learned from myself was I need to define who I am. I need to have a voice now, because I've been so voiceless for so long. Now, there was a tremendous amount of shame in that, a tremendous amount of fear in being able to be your authentic self, but I knew I had to have a voice. I knew I couldn't addict on work anymore. Because what happens, I think, with so many people, when they run from their fear, usually they will addict on something, whether it be alcohol, drugs, sex addiction, religious addiction, work addiction. But I knew as long as I had to be my authentic self, I couldn't run from the fear. I had to embrace the fear and be authentically who I was. And that started my real journey in doing that.
I love it. Dan, I got to start by saying I dig that jacket. I like it. But how, Dan, I want to ask you, how has coming out positively affected your life?
I think I have a sense of peace and acceptance that I've had in my whole life. Because I define who I am now. Nobody defines who I am. I look in the mirror every morning and I like what I see. It doesn't mean I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm obviously imperfect. I've made mistakes. I've been vulnerable. My memoir will show you the rawness of that, the honesty of that. But I also know I'm a beautiful man, and it's affected my life. I'm more peaceful. I'm happier. I'm more connected not only to myself, but to others as well. And I think I lead more with acceptance and love now than I've ever had.
Wow. I know, Dan, we wish that we could continue to ask you questions, but luckily a lot of answers are in this book. Dan, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you.
To our viewers.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all of you there. It's been my privilege.
Thank you. It's our honor to our viewers to learn more about Dan's story. You can grab a copy of his book, The Courage to Be Courageous, on Amazon. You can also check out his podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again, Dan. Congratulations. Wow. We'll be right back. Great cover.
Thank you guys so much.